the 80-year-old widow who became obsessed with young men? Her name was Linda. Every morning she would dress herself up beautifully, not for a date, but to hide under the trees in the park and watch the boys play basketball. This was her routine, day after day, until the boys finally noticed. They shouted at her, told her to leave them alone, to never come back. Years of crushing loneliness after her husband's death had blurred the lines in her mind. She couldn't tell if what she was doing was brave or just reckless. In a moment of desperation, she grabbed one of the young men and tried to kiss him. He reacted instantly, slapping her across the face. The sting of his hand shattered her fantasy, but it didn't end her obsession. In fact, it was just the beginning. Linda decided to rent out a room in her house for next to nothing. There was only one condition. The tenant had to be a man. And that's how Ryan came into her life. He was young, handsome, and had a smile that made her heart flutter. After Ryan moved in, Linda felt like she was coming alive again, like she was getting younger. She washed his clothes and cooked him elaborate meals, all for free. All she wanted was to hear him say, "Thank you, Linda." Her obsession grew in secret. Sometimes, she would even lick his plate clean before serving him his food, a strange ritual he knew nothing about. In the privacy of her own mind, she started calling herself Ryan's wife. She would sneak into his room when he was out, lie on his bed, and just breathe in the faint scent he left on his clothes. One day, Ryan came home early and found her there, clutching his blanket, fast asleep on his bed. He didn't say a word. He just quietly closed the door and left. Linda woke up later, realizing what had happened. She interpreted his silence as acceptance, a sign that he understood. That same afternoon, the boys from the park showed up and started throwing eggs at her windows. Ryan heard the commotion and rushed outside, shouting at them, defending her. Seeing him stand up for her, so brave and protective, ignited something dangerous inside Linda. That night, blinded by a desire she could no longer control, she did something she would forever regret. Ryan had fallen asleep on the couch after making sure all the windows were clean and the porch light was on. Linda tiptoed past him and slipped into his room. It was dark, except for the pale streetlight filtering through the curtains. He was fast asleep in his bed, one arm hanging off the side. For a long moment she just stood there watching him, the sound of his steady breathing feeling like oxygen to her starving heart. Slowly she stepped closer and sat on the edge of the bed. Her hand trembled as she reached out, her fingers hovering just above his hair before she finally brushed it back from his forehead. Her chest felt tight, her whole body buzzing with a strange energy. It was in that moment that Ryan's eyes flickered open. He saw her leaning over him. "Linda, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice thick with sleep. "I thought you needed me," she whispered back, her voice barely audible. The fantasy she had built in her mind was so real to her. "You can't come in here like this," he said firmly, pushing himself up. The alarm in his eyes was clear. That simple sentence hit her harder than a slap in the park. The world she had constructed began to crack. She froze, her hand still resting on his shoulder. "After everything I do for you, after tonight," she pleaded. "I defended you because it was the right thing to do," Ryan said, choosing his words carefully. "Not because..." He didn't finish the sentence, but she heard the unspoken words loud and clear. "Not because I love you." Silence filled the room. She backed away slowly and walked out without another word. The next morning, Ryan was packing his bags. He told her he was leaving. Linda didn't argue, didn't beg. She just looked at him with broken eyes and said, "You'll come back." But he never did. A week later, another young man moved in, drawn by the same cheap rent and the same unspoken condition. And every morning, Linda dressed herself up beautifully again,